Back on Get Up, and the Vontaze Burfict saga continues. Yesterday, we heard from John Gruden, who was not at all happy about a season-long suspension. We also heard from Derek Carr, passionately defending the linebacker. Our Josina Anderson had more yesterday on NFL Live.
When we talk about the accumulated history of Vontaze Burfict, he makes the point that the league's emphasis on lowering the helmet for contact really came in the 2018 season. And the history of violations from Vontaze Burfict came, most of that prior to 2018, when you talk about actually accounting for the history. The second thing is that the things that did come in 2018, he did have fines, but he's had no suspensions since that policy has been emphasized with regards to lowering the helmet.
So, Josina, there with the reporting on what his defense is likely to be. And every time this comes up, Shefty, I notice in your face, you're sort of just shaking your head. What are your thoughts?
I mean, the rules are the rules. I don't care when the rules were enacted. I don't care when they put them into place. Here is a player who repeatedly has been suspended or disciplined for this type of behavior. Here's a league that has taken action against these players. And yes, we are in a day and age where those actions that the league takes are more severe and the consequences greater than ever before. If you put a hit on a player when he's down on the ground and zero threat to run like that and go helmet to helmet, of course you're going to be suspended. And of course you're going to be suspended for a long period of time when you've already been suspended twice before and lead the league in unnecessary roughness penalties over the last 3 or 4 years. Of course that's going to happen. And maybe they'll reduce the suspension some, but he was always going to get a lengthy suspension. And they put it right now for the rest of the season, and we'll see what they do with it upon appeal.
So I'll make excuses for defensive players all day, especially with guys coming across the middle. We're watching the videos. It's receivers running slants. They're moving around. They're trying to get down. And sometimes it's unavoidable. Like you're going to hit a player in the head. But a lot of times it's not intentional. I think Vontaze Burfict, more times than not, it is intentional. But Jack Doyle was on the ground. He was wrapped up. He was on a knee. He wasn't even moving. And you can see Burfict lower his head and him. That's why they threw a year at him. They threw a year at him. He's going to appeal this. I wouldn't be surprised if they dialed it back to 8 games, just so the precedent's set. This is it, man. You've got a half season now. Next time, you're done.
I guess the reason I'm pissed off about this whole thing is because, Bobby, you and I both know this. We former players look at each other, we're like it's a brotherhood. Yep. You know what I mean? Like we go out there, when those 3 hours, we play hard, we do all those type of things. I don't think no guy's out there to try to intentionally hurt a fellow player and hurt their career and all those type of things. But when you look at that hit, that to me looks like he's intentionally trying to take that man's head off. Okay, and to me, I don't want to hear any excuses about, the hits he had against the Pittsburgh Steelers were back in 2017. I don't care. All right, it looked like to me you're intentionally trying to take that man out, trying to end his career. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't want you in the game. I don't want you in the game.
The hit where he suspended 3 games for hitting Antonio Brown. You look at that hit. And you look at how vicious that particular play was. The next year, it's a preseason game. He goes over to Anthony Sherman on a pass that was downfield and lays out the fullback when it wasn't even going in that direction. It was 5 games that was reduced to 3. So maybe they knock off a couple of games now. So instead of maybe 12 games becomes 10 or 8, whatever it is. The point is, you can't play in that way.
This is not what football is anymore. The bottom line is what Vontaze Burfict does and what football is in 2019 just don't fit together. Now, speaking of this, a little sneaky big news. Yesterday, Ryan Clark and Dominique Foxworth brought up this huge hit from Bucs lineman Donovan Smith on the Rams' Marcus Peters, who was going in for a pick 6. And the point they were making, bear in mind, Donovan Smith weighs 340 pounds almost, and you look at what happens to Marcus Peters' head there. The point they were making is that hit was either ignored or made light of, particularly on social media, largely because of the position that Peters plays. So, Neek, I would love you to share, for our audience that didn't hear it yesterday and for D. Wood, your perspective on that play.
No, I mean, that play was just as bad as any other play that we saw from the weekend, and I think it might have been the worst play. But I think there's 2 points that I want to make. One is about that play, and I think that this is, for the league, it's about optics. And I hate to use a buzzword like that, but that's what it is. They care about the plays that we see or that upset us. The Vontaze Burfict play upset us all, so he got in trouble because of it. This play is just as egregious. Marcus Peters is almost in the end zone, and this is just meant to hurt him. This is just meant to punish him at this point, and no one has made a big fuss about that. And I'll also point out, as we all, throughout this whole week, we all sit up here grandstanding about how important it is and how we don't play the game the same way and how it's about protecting guys from CTE. But in actuality, the research does not support that those big hits are the problem. The research supports that football is what causes CTE and the subconcussive episodes that take place on every single play. So if we're going to get upset about that, which I'm fine with us get upset, and we want to get that out of the game, let's also accept that we're not sure that that is even the crux of the issue. It might even just be the fact of playing football. So we should accept that also while we're sitting up here blaming Vontaze Burfict for perpetuating CTE. It's not just him. It is the game.
Okay, so there's that piece of it, and that's one thing. But let's go back to the actual hit itself, because the point you and RC were making yesterday was the reaction that we have to that play is nowhere near what the reaction is to the play from Vontaze Burfict. D. Wood, what did you make of that?
You know what, Dominic, you're my guy. I respect you a ton, but if you're going to compare the way that Vontaze Burfict hit Jack Doyle to what Donovan Smith during that actual football play was hitting Marcus Peters. I don't know what we're seeing here. You're talking about a guy in Jack Doyle who was on one knee, really wasn't even in any position to really advance the football at that point. And he comes in head first into Jack Doyle while he's literally on a knee on the ground. Okay. And you're talking about that hit in your eyes is the same as the Donovan Smith hit? I'm sorry, man. I'm just not. So I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing it.
I think that's fair. That's fair. Maybe it was. I shouldn't have said it was the worst hit. I don't think it matters. I think arguing which hit was worse is irrelevant. I think that what Donovan did was just as bad. Like Marcus Peters was already in the end zone. He launched his helmet, his 300.
He wasn't in the end zone. He wasn't in the end zone.
He was just about there. So
he wasn't in the end zone. He's finishing the play.
You're going to realistically say to me that his intention at that point was to tackle him, or was his intention at that point to make him pay for intercepting the ball? If you don't think that his intention was to launch his helmet into another man's helmet, I mean, that's what it seemed like he was trying to do. Let me tell you something.
Let me tell you something. As an offensive lineman, you want me to tell you one thing that we didn't do during practices? We didn't do tackling drills, okay? We have big enough problems trying to block people. We weren't out there trying to form tackle and all those type of things. So when you have a turnover in that particular situation, Donovan Smith is just going out there to try to lay ahead, maybe to jar the ball loose, but to sit here and say that hit was just as egregious.
I think it is a waste of time. It's a waste of time for us to argue. It's a waste of time for us to argue which hit is worse. All I'm saying is, if you want the Vontaze Burfict hit out of the game, you should want this hit out of the game too. We cannot encourage players to headhunt other players, which is what we saw there. So if you have the expectation for, and not just Vontaze Burfict, any defensive player, you have the expectation that defensive players are not going to headhunt offensive players. I'm just saying you should have that same expectation of the offensive player going after the defensive player. I don't care if you practice tackling or not.
I don't look at Donovan Smith trying to headhunt. First of all, Donovan Smith is a lot taller player. Okay, he's just out there just trying to make a tackle.
But I have to leave it because of time here, Sheffy. Are there any ramifications for that hit that we know of for Donovan Smith?
I would think he'll be fine, but as of right now, he has not yet been fine.
And Marcus Peters is going to play tonight.
And Marcus Peters is on the injury report, but is a go for tonight.
Okay, so we will not even want it missing a game.
One hit was avoidable, the other one wasn't. That's what it comes down to.
Okay, we have much more to do here this morning. We'll continue. Dominique, thank you for jumping in here. I'm sorry that you weren't here to defend yourself in person. As we continue on Get Up, will all of the injuries